All right, here's an exercise for you. I want you to implement an API for managing products. So when we hit /API/products, we get an array of product objects. Each product has 3 properties: ID, name, and price. So we'll spend 5 to 10 minutes on this and then come back see my solution. All right, so we go in the API folder and add a new folder called products. Then we add a route file. In this route file, first we export our get function. We give it a request of type next request. And for now, we return some hard-coded data. So we return next response.json and give it an array of product objects. Each product should have 3 properties: an ID, a name, and a price. Let's duplicate it. Here's the second product. Bread, let's say $3.5. Now to test this, we go back to Postman and send a GET request to API/products. Make sure to clear the body of the request, otherwise we'll get an exception. Let's send this. Good. We get a 200 response with our products. Beautiful. Now, to create a product, we export the post function. We give it a request. Now, in this function, first we have to read the body of the request. So we call request.json. This returns a promise, so we await it to get the body. I'm typing fast because I'm assuming you have done the exercise, okay? Now let's make this async. Next, we need to validate our product objects. So in the products folder, let's add a schema file. In this file, first we import z from Zod. Then we call z.object and give it an object that defines the shape of our products. So here we have an ID. Well, we're not going to send the ID to the server. We only want to send the name, which should be a string with minimum, let's say, 3 characters. We also need a price, which should be a number with minimum, let's say, $1 and maximum $100. Then we get a schema. And finally, we export it as a default object. Good. Now that we have this, we go back to our route file. On the top, we import our schema. Then in our post function, we call schema.saveParse. We pass the body of the request and get our validation object. Now, if validation is not successful, we return next response.json. And here we return validation.error.errors. Of course, we should set the status to what? 400, meaning bad request. Otherwise, we return the object that was supposedly created. So we return next response.json. Here we return an object. We give it an ID, let's say 10. And then we need to copy the properties in the body, which are name and price. We can use the spread operator like this, but this is not a safe way to do this because a malicious user can send additional properties that we're not going to accept. So I would prefer to be more explicit here. So we set name to body.name and price to body.price. Okay. Now we can optionally set the status to 201, which means created. Now let's test this. So back in Postman, let's send a post request to this endpoint. Now if we pass an empty object, we get a bad request with a couple of errors. One is about the name property, the other is about price. Both of these are saying that these properties are required. Okay, so let's set name to eggs and price to 5. Send. All right, here's what we get. Beautiful. So the rest of the exercise is pretty repetitive. I'm not going to spend any more time on this because that would be a waste of your time, right? But I encourage you to implement, update, and delete functions as well.